This episode of the Duke Basketball Report podcast is brought to you by the boys of Byrd Campbell, PA. For all of your legal needs in Florida and Texas, Byrd Campbell means business. Hello, Duke fans, and welcome to episode 132 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. Now, here's the tricky thing. It's Sunday, October 28th, 2018. The last time we came to you, it was also Sunday, October 28th, 2018. That's because we pulled a fast one and recorded two episodes back to back because, hey, we were on the phone already, and Duke's season preview isn't going to change much from what it is now to when it is you're listening. Probably sometime a week or two from when we're recording. So might as well just knock the thing out. And that's what we're doing. So if there was college basketball, before we get into this, if there has been any college basketball news since October 28th, since the evening of October 28th, we are not covering it today. We are just going to be doing the season preview for Duke basketball and talking a little bit about the first game of the season, the one against Kentucky that's tipping off on November 6th. So if anything has happened since then, you'll just have to wait for us to discuss it next time. But let's get right into it. I am your host for this episode. I am Sam Klein, coming to you as I usually do now from Durham, North Carolina. I am joined, of course, by Donald Wine in Washington, D.C. and Jason Evans from Atlanta. I would ask you guys how you're doing, but we already did that in the last episode, and presumably you're exactly the same as you were, an hour ago. Is that right, Donald?
Yeah, so I just want to apologize to the viewers. You know, we were going to our listeners out there, we were going to kind of peek into the future at some of this, college basketball news that would occur between tonight and whenever we drop this podcast. But my DeLorean's in the shop, and the way my bank account's set up, there's a check-in and a savings, and on the weekends, neither of them work. And my DeLorean's screwed, and the flux capacitor and all that stuff is all jacked up. So I couldn't go into the future and get the information that we needed to bring back here. So my bad.
And for all those listeners who don't get Donald's movie references from the that's fine, because I never saw that movie when it was in theaters either. Jason Evans, are you still okay?
Yeah, I had this weird sense of deja vu. I feel like we were here just an hour ago doing this.
So strange. Anyway, let's get right into it, because this is one of my favorite episodes that we do annually, mostly because it usually involves me pulling a fast one on you guys and throwing stuff in that you didn't expect. Also because I, in case you forgot, am the reigning champion of the stats prediction game. So if you don't remember from years past, or this is your first year joining us for the season preview, we could go around and talk about all the different players on the team and what they're going to contribute. But I feel like a lot of people know who some of the guys are, or they're going to hear about them throughout the season. And our predictions aren't necessary. General predictions, I would say, about how the season's going to go don't really matter anyway. So the way we've done this the last couple of years is that I come up with a list of statistical categories, and the three of us guess on who's going to be the leader in each of those categories from the team. And it's a little game between us. So as I mentioned, I hope I mentioned that I won last year. So we're going to play the game again this year. I've got a new set of stats that the guys and I are going to guess on. And so let's get right into it if you guys are ready. So we'll start, of course, with most points scored in the season. I'll go to Donald first, and I will also be taking notes as we go. So forgive me if I get a little scatterbrained as we're going through. Donald, who is going to score the most points for Duke basketball this season?
I think it's going to be close, but I think in the end it's going to be RJ Barrett.
And Jason?
I don't think it's going to be that close. I think this RJ Barrett kid is the real deal, like times 10. This kid is we're going to really enjoy. It's only going to be 1 year, but we're going to really enjoy his time in Durham, and he is going to lead Duke in scoring this year. In fact, you ready to go out on a limb? I think that he's going to average the most points per game for any Duke player since J.J. Redick averaged more than 26 points per game back in the early 2000s. He'll have to score about like 21 and a half or so points per game to get there. But I think RJ Barrett will average more than 21, 22 points per game and will lead Duke in scoring this year.
Unfortunately, I think this year, this game isn't going to be as interesting as it usually is. That being said, I also think RJ Barrett's going to lead the team in scoring. Let's move on to rebounds. Jason, I'll let you go first. Who's going to lead the team in rebounds this season?
Zion Williamson. And if either of you pick someone other than Zion Williamson, you're freaking crazy.
So, Donald, you're going to go with
Zion.
Yeah, same. All right. 2 categories down. Nothing interesting yet. Let's move on to what I hope.
Well, hey,
be...
Sam, by the way, I think that shows how dominant both of these guys are in those categories, how great a rebounder Zion is and how great a scorer RJ is.
So speaking of dominating in a category, most block shots this season, I am going to go, drum roll, with Zion Williamson. Donald, who's going to lead the team in block shots this year?
This is where the crazy might occur. Marquis Bolden.
Whoa!
Ooh, did he just pull a Bolden?
Yeah,
I think he did.
I think it's, and I think it's going to be close. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about time on the court and opportunities to block shots. I feel like Bolden has more opportunities than Zion to block shots. Now, Zion's block shots are spectacular, but I do think that when you talk about like tip shots and stuff like that, all those that get marked down as blocks, Marquis will ink him out. It will squeak it out by just a smidgen.
Jason, do you agree with Donald?
Nope. Zion Williamson will lead this team in block shots. Dude is a freak. He's a freak, and he gets in the air high, high, high.
Yeah, this is one of those categories I can't even believe we're talking about. Let's move on to another one. Trust me, these will get more interesting as we move along, maybe as we get out of the sort of the normal categories. So most assists, I'll let Jason go first on this one. Jason, do you have a prediction about who's going to lead the team in assists this season?
I don't know where you think it's going to get interesting. All three of us are going to pick Trey Jones.
No, it's not getting interesting on this category. Donald, are you also in agreement here?
Yeah.
Thank God. I don't want us to get too off the rails. Let's go on to most steals. So total steals this season. This one, I feel like you could go a few different ways. Donald, let me hear your prediction for it.
Again, I was thinking about opportunities, and I was thinking about the chances that they have to execute, and go for steals. By 10 steals, which is kind of a lot, but not that much. RJ Barrett.
I went the same way, and I'm curious to see if Jason made it 3 for 3.
No, I will not. I'm going Trey Jones. I think his ball hawking is going to lead to a lot of steals. He had 5 steals against Ferris State, and I think Trey Jones will lead the team in steals.
Now, one thing I did note with steals is the steal is counted by the person who actually comes up with the basketball. I do think Trey Jones is going to tip a lot of and cause a lot of steals with tipping him, but I think they're going to be tipped into other people's hands, which will cost him in the end.
And I was going to go back to a point I made physically an hour ago, but last week for those listening, that I like RJ Barrett's perimeter defense. I think that between his on-ball defense and his ability to clog the lane and just the sheer number of minutes that he's probably going to play, I see a lot of steal opportunities kind of all over the court for him. So
his length. I mean, RJ Barrett's arms. I mean, I picked Trey Jones, and maybe I was foolish to do it. RJ Barrett's arms are just like absurdly long.
Let's talk about field goal percentage. This one, I feel like, is also one you can kind of go in a few different directions with. I'm going to take RJ Barrett, but I feel like there are a number of good picks for who's going to have the highest field goal percentage on the team. Jason, who you got for highest field goal percentage?
Yeah, I'm going out of the box on this one. I'm going to take Javin DeLaurier because I think that Javin's going to get a lot of putbacks. He's going to get a lot of dunks when other guys get double teamed. He's not a guy who tends to take a ton of shots, which sort of favors him hitting, a high percentage and sort of taking advantage of that. I don't think we're going to see him take a lot of 3-pointers, and 3-pointers brings down your field goal percentage. So I got Javin for the highest field goal percentage. Plus, I just wanted to mention his name in these predictions.
And Donald.
Just to be clear, this is when I remember last year, I think we decided that it was going to be a minimum of a field goal attempt per game to be eligible. Is that correct?
That is
correct. Are we not doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't take Frank.
Right. Or you can't take, Buck Besser, who's going to do like 1 for 1 or something. Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
So my pick is going to be Zion Williamson. I think it's going to be, like you said, I think this is going to be a very interesting one because I think there's going to be a few guys that can contest this. But in the end, I think Zion gets this one.
All right. I want to move on to another potentially interesting category and related. Highest 3-point field goal percentage, and we'll set the minimum at an average of 0.5 3-point field goals taken per game. So if Duke plays in 30 games this season, or 36 games this season, let's pick a number that's more fun. 36 games this season.
Let's pick 40. 40. We're going to play 40 games. Playing 40 games.
You need to have at least taken 20 3-point field goal attempts. So, Donald, you first. Highest 3-point percentage, minimum 0.5 3-point attempts per game.
Based on what I saw last year and what I think he can do this year, I'm going with Alex O'Connell.
Wow, I went the same way. Jason, are you going to make it 3 for 3 on Alex O'Connell?
I am. I think Alex O'Connell, I mean, the dude hit like almost 50% last year. He has shown no signs of being anything less than that this year. I think he's going to be our best 3-point shooter.
I feel like Cam Reddish could challenge him here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait. So are we going to do total 3-point field goals made?
No, I was going with percentage. Should we add a category for
Let's add the category for 3-point field goals made, because that's where I'm taking Cam Reddish. I think Cam Reddish will lead this team with the most 3-point field goals made.
All right. I need to write this down, and while I'm doing it, Donald, you're also going to tell me which player on this team is going to take the most threes this season.
I'm also going with Cam Reddish to make the most threes. I do think it's going to be a battle between him and RJ Barrett for most threes, but I think he will have the most opportunities to do so.
And I was actually going to take RJ Barrett as I'm thinking about it now. So I'm going with Barrett. Donald is going with Cam Reddish, and Jason is also going with Cam Reddish. Great. I've got that down here now. I'll refer to these back later in the season. All right. Next category, total wins. And I will remind you guys that last year you both wildly overpredicted the number of games that the Marvin Bagley, Grayson Allen, Wendell Carter team was going to win. So the team last year won 28.
How many did I guess?
Jason guessed like 37 or 39 or something outrageous. I won this category by a huge number, and I didn't even have to go that far. I didn't even get close to it. So I'll just remind the folks that last year Duke won 29 games. They, of course, made the Elite Eight. The year before, they won 28 games. They only made the second round of the tournament. The year before, they made the Sweet 16. The year before, they won 25 games. So, like, maybe cool it this year on the predictions. Jason, I'll start with you. How many games is Duke going to win this season?
I really want to say like 36 or 37, but I know that that's insane with a team this young playing this tough a schedule. As we've talked a little bit, that the ACC schedule especially is really, really tough. I'm going to go 33.
All right, I like it. I'm going to take 28 was my number. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative. Donald, what about you?
36.
Go, Donald.
You know what? Donald has
I hope you win. I hope you win.
Donald has a history in this game of being the biggest homer. So we'll see if that pays off. Let's go to total true road wins. I had Duke. Yeah.
I was gonna say, let me go first because I got a whole breakdown of this.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. Why don't you tell us how many true road wins Duke's gonna have?
So true road wins. We by the way, we only played 9 true road games. Only 9 true road games this year. All of them in the ACC in 2019. So, and some of those are automatic wins. So the most you could say is 9. We're going to beat Wake. We're going to beat Pitt. I don't think Notre Dame or Louisville can beat us on the road. So that's 2 more. So that's 4. So I see 5 potential games we could lose: at Florida State, at Virginia, at Syracuse, at Virginia Tech, and at UNC. Those are the 5 games we could lose. I think we lose 3 of those. I hate saying that. So I'm going to give us a total of 6 true road wins.
I had done a similar analysis, and I actually ended up at 5. So I think Duke is going to really be challenged on the road, especially since they don't have the opportunities early in the season. Maybe that trip to Hawaii sort of acts in a little bit of that way because it is a lot of travel, but all the other teams are going to be traveling as well. The game against is it Texas Tech is up in New York. is going to be a home game for Duke. It's not like they're playing another team from the Northeast that brings a lot of guys. So I'm going to go with 5. I think that Duke is going to have more struggles this year on the road, or maybe it's as much as they usually have, but they are going to struggle in conference. I think there are a lot of good teams in the ACC that Duke has to play away. Donald, what do you think about Duke's true road wins this season?
I also went with 6. My rationale being, I think that when you're talking about games that we could potentially lose, I think we cover, or we hold serve at home, and we might lose one along the way at a neutral site, maybe ACC tournament or in Hawaii, and then 3 true road losses, which leaves 6 true road wins.
Okay, I like it. Let's move on now. Looking at the ACC, we're doing some team predictions, some overall stuff, and then we're going to come back to individuals. Total number of ACC teams who make the NCAA tournament. And Donald, I'm going to let you go first with this one.
I'm going to go with 7. The only reason I say that, I think the ACC is going to kind of level itself out, even though like on paper right now it's looked at as a very strong conference, and I think it will be the strongest conference. But usually you're not getting 8, 9, 10 teams in unless you're having a stellar year as a conference. I think that in the end, the ACC gets in 7.
All right. And Jason?
I think Donald's insane. I think that there are eight ACC teams that are in the top 25. If you ask me to put together the 25 best teams in the country, I think 8 of them are ACC teams. And by the way, Ken Pomeroy and the other folks who study the advanced analytics agree with me that there are 8 ACC teams that are among the 25 best in the country. And then I think one of NC State or Notre Dame or maybe Louisville or BC, one of those teams will rise up a little bit and be the 9th team. So I think the ACC will put the 8 top 25 teams and one more, a total of 9 teams in the NCAA tournament. The ACC is really, really good this year.
I was going to go with 8, so I'll split the difference. Jason, you're going with 9?
Yeah.
All right. There we go. I'm saying 8. I don't know if everyone hangs on and is that good throughout the season. Let's move to a fun category, shall we?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Total number of slam dunks for Zion Williamson. And I went back. I found a Devil's Den article. So shout out to Devil's Den. Thank you guys for doing the hard work for me. It looks like Marvin Bagley set the record for Duke dunks in a season last year with 92. Mason Plumlee had
96. Not 96, not 92. It was 96. And I'm ashamed that you went to a Devil's Den article to find that. There is a thread on the DBR boards, the Duke dunk thread, that talks about nothing but how many dunks we have each game. And it references last year's thread, which chronicled 96 for Marvin Bagley, a Duke record.
So 96, Mason Plumlee in second place with 87 in 2013. Does that look right?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
All right.
Correct. Yes.
So we've got kind of an idea of a range. Bagley has the record with 96. I'm assuming that both of you were looking at that number to kind of augment or to inform what you think about Zion. So I'll take this one first. I think that Zion Williamson is going to set a new Duke record for dunks in a season. I also think he's going to break the century mark and get 102 dunks. Donald, how many dunks will Zion Williamson have this season?
103.
Whoa! 103. And Jason.
So if we're playing The Price is Right, I'd say 104, but that's not fair.
No, you'd say $1. That's
no, right? Yes, no, but I think he's absolutely going over that. Remember, Marvin Bagley, who set the record with 96 last year, he missed a few games, so he would have been over 100 if he'd played in all those games. Zion Williamson will set the record easily. He will have 110 slam dunks.
All right, I love it. I love Jason and Donald kind of battling it out for the most homer title on the show. It really helps. I think it helps me. So personally, which for the purposes of the season preview prediction podcast is all that I care about at the moment. We'll see though how things end up at the end of the season. I've got a category here for Jack White's total minutes this season. Is that the one we were going to do?
Yeah.
Change that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's in.
All right, Jack White, total minutes. Donald, I have a prediction. Donald, you go first.
So last year, Jack White had 159 minutes, and I think he's going to get more than that. And I was trying to debate about how much more he was going to get. I settled with a whole number of 250.
250 for Donald. Jason, your prediction for Jack White total minutes?
So I think Jack's going to play like around 7 or 8 minutes per game, which is a pretty decent number. So I gave another whole number. I went with 300 total minutes.
Guys, I'm the optimist here, at least for Jack White. I don't know what that means for the whole season, but I got him at 401.
Wow.
That's the number I came
number.
to.
That's a big number.
I see Jack White playing some minutes this year for Duke basketball. I kind of looked at sort of average minutes played around where guys like him fall in the rotation, and also knowing that this team is still pretty young, so we don't know if once they start playing real games, whether any of the freshmen are going to suffer from foul trouble or who's going to run into the proverbial freshman wall, around January, February. I see Jack White getting some minutes from this team, especially, and I don't think we talked about this on the show that, again, we completed a few minutes ago, but the news for which came out a long time ago, which is that Jack White is sharing captaincy duties with Javin DeLaurier this year. So I think Coach K sees a little bit more in Jack White than maybe we know at this point in the season.
Sam, I got a question. Where do you think Jack White falls in the rotation? Do you think he's seventh man? Because I think he's the eighth man, and the eighth man at Duke doesn't get a lot of minutes.
Yeah, and that's kind of the challenge, right? Is he ahead of, or is he behind Alex O'Connell? I think we sort of assume that DeLaurier and Bolden are going to be splitting time at the 5. I think that both White and O'Connell are going to see decent minutes, even though it sort of goes against the general Coach K trend. But so if I had to guess, I'd say that Jack White is 7th, and that O'Connell is 8th. I don't know why I think this. Maybe you're just making me rethink my whole process here.
Nope.
That's okay.
Allowed. There will be no adjustment of the picks after the pick has been.
The prediction is in. The prediction is in. All right, let's go to Donald's favorite category. How many 100-point games will Duke have this season?
10.
Famously,
Go for 10, Donald. 10.
Famously, 2 years ago, Donald said that Duke was going to have 10 games where they scored 100 points, and I think that season they had
3 or something,
2, something like that. Anyway. Donald, how many 100-point games is Duke going to have this season?
10 divided by 2 equals 5.
5, still a lot. I wrote 1. Jason?
So I think we're going to pick up the pace this year. We're going to play faster than we have in the past, but 100 points is still a lot of points. I'll go 4. I think 4 games.
Okay. All right. I think we've got one more category left that I've got written on my sheet. How many individual 30-point games are Duke Blue Devils going to have this season? Jason, I'll go to you first.
So can we clarify something about this? Do you mean how many different individuals will score at least 30 points in a game?
No. How many total individual 30-point games? So
I misunderstood the category then.
So 2 guys score 30 in a game. That's 2.
That's 2 games. And then if the same 2 guys score 30 in the next game, that's another 2.
Got it.
Wow. Okay. So I wasn't necessarily prepared. I was thinking how many different people, and I was like, oh, let's go 3. I think because RJ and Zion will both score 30 at some point, and Cam will get it maybe at some point in the season. We'll see. So I said 3, but now I need to change it.
Take a quick stab at it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go 12.
12 games. All right, good.
Which is a lot.
That is a lot.
But I think RJ is going to score a ton of points.
That is a lot. Donald, how many do you think?
I went with 6.
Donald went with 6. Guys, I'm the optimist here. I said Duke was going to have 14 individual games where guys score 30 points. So wow. I'm more in Jason's guys.
That's big.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Watching Zion and RJ in these exhibition games and at Countdown and in Toronto, it just it seems like there'll be so many nights where they're just forces. And no one's able to contain them. That's just what I feel. I don't know if that translates to Duke winning 35 games in a season, but I know that it translates to a lot of offense.
Sam, can I? This is not part of the official prediction game, but can I just ask something of us? Guys, how many combined points per game do you think those 2 guys will have? RJ plus Zion, how many points per game do you think they will combine for
We can
over
make
the
this a
course of the
category.
season.
We can do this.
Yeah.
I can take the
category.
rules very quickly.
Donald, while Sam is writing it down, you go first. Combined points per game, RJ plus Zion.
So I'm going to predict that both of them end up over 20 points a game, and I think combined, I think we are looking at a number of 46.5.
Oh my God, that's huge! 46.5.
Right.
Wow.
But look, when you were talking about points per game and what RJ was going to do in the 22 to 23 point range, if Zion's right behind him, you're looking at 45, 46 points a game.
I was going to say 44, and I thought 44 is so optimistic. That's such a huge number. I mean, that's like a crazy number, but and you topped me, Donald. So I'm going 44 points per game combined.
I'm going to go 43.1. There's my official. So we kind of went with a little spread there.
Sam, if it's 43.2, you lose.
No, I think I still win.
Yeah, I think that's how that works. Yeah,
that is how the game works, guys. I didn't tell you this when we planned this. We did plan this a little while ago. I'm adding a surprise final category in honor of Marquis Bolden going, as I mentioned in my Player of the Week shout out, going 1 for 2 from 3 in the final exhibition game. Guys, surprise category. How many total 3-pointers will Marquis Bolden hit this season?
I love it.
I went with 2. Donald, you go.
How many that he'll make?
Total 3-pointers made for Marquis Bolden this season, and I went with 2. Just say the first number that pops into your head.
4. I'll go 4.
4. That's so many. Jason.
I think you guys are both way under. Coach K talked about the fact that Marquis has a good 3-point stroke. It's slow, but he's got a good 3-point stroke, and he is allowed to take that shot. This is not just a, hey, we're screwing around because we're beating Ferris State by 80 points kind of thing. He's allowed to take that shot, and I think he's going to take it. I'm going to say 7.
Jason thinks that Marquis Bolden.
I was thinking you were going to say something like 15 or 20.
Yeah,
you went with
Jason.
7.
If you're gonna go for it, lead, man.
I want to win. I was actually going to say like 12, but I want to win the category, so I'm just going a little bit above you guys. I have the advantage of picking third, so that's why I went 7. But if stick my hand in the fire, do I have to make a wager? I would say 12 if I had to make a wager.
Do you want me to put you down for it? I'm still letting this be open until the end of the show. You can change your picks.
If I say 12 and he hits like 7 or 8, I would lose then, and that would suck.
True. But isn't that sort of the fun of the game?
Gamble.
12. Put me down for 12. He's hitting a dozen.
Jason's going with 12. So we've got, folks. We have 18 categories here. I've got predictions locked in for them. They're here, saved forever via audio, or at least until they shut down our SoundCloud account. And we've got a nice spread. Some of the categories, of course, we went with the same guys, but overall, I think we ended up with a nice spread, and we will see at the end of the season. We haven't managed in years past to actually have any sort of wager on the outcome of this game, but of course, as always, we are open to suggestions. Of course, DBRPodcast@gmail.com is where you can always get in touch with us. Feel free to send us your hilarious thoughts about what happens to the loser or winner of the stats prediction game. And I'm going to allow that because not only am I in charge of the game, but I'm also the reigning champion. So what I say here is, as far as I'm concerned, is just the true gospel of the stats prediction game. It's the most important thing we do here at DBR Podcast among all the great things we do. So thank you guys for joining me for this annual edition of the stats prediction game. In honor of the annual Duke Basketball Report podcast season preview, we asked our big sponsors, Byrd Campbell, PA, and Dominate Test Prep, for thoughts on the upcoming Duke basketball season that they would like to share. So I'm going to give you guys the thoughts from our sponsors, but real quick, just to remind you, this episode of the Duke Basketball Report podcast is brought to you by Dominate Test Prep. Founded by Duke alum Brett Etheridge, Dominate Test Prep provides online courses for the GMAT and GRE that are flexible and affordable, but most importantly, they teach Brett's proven test-taking strategies and produce high scores on test day. If you or someone you know is looking to get into a top school, let a guy who bleeds Duke Blue help. You can learn more at dominatetestprep.com and use the coupon code GODEVILS to save 10% off any course package. Brett sent us a note earlier today and said, I predict that Zion Williamson most likely will dominate the GRE, the GMAT, and the rim of every venue that he plays in this season. That guy is a freak. And what's more incredible and exciting for Duke fans is that RJ Barrett is an even better all-around basketball player and will likely lead the team in scoring and clutch plays. So, guys, we didn't do a clutch plays category in the stats prediction game, but that's it from Brett Etheridge over at Dominate Test Prep. Of course, the other sponsor for the show is Byrd Campbell, PA. The boys at Byrd Campbell bleed Duke Blue and remind you that if you have any legal needs in Texas or in Florida, to call the boys of Byrd Campbell, PA, because Byrd Campbell means business. We also heard, of course, from Tucker Byrd leading into this show, and his commentary on Duke this season says, as another season brimming with promise approaches, ardent Duke believers usually are conflicted between predicting the season with their heads and not their hearts. Picking Duke over the entire NCAA field is a statistical long shot, as evidenced by the fact that Coach K, for all his greatness, has only won it 13% of the time. But this may be the year that practicality and passion agree. There will be disappointments and freshman walls to be hit, along with the occasional storming of the floor by opposing fans after a signature upset. But bet against Duke this year, in the end, at your own peril. When excellence is your measuring stick, the wins will come. This team's motto, earn everything, says it all. Approach everything in life as if nothing is to be taken for granted, and all will be there for the taking. Byrd Campbell proudly supports all Duke sports for their commitment to excellence. As a law firm founded by Dukies, committed to the abiding principles of excellence learned at Duke and carried through decades of serving clients' businesses and real estate needs, Byrd Campbell remains true blue and practices it too. So thanks again, of course, to Tucker Byrd, to Jamie Campbell, and to Brett Etheridge, our big sponsors here at the DBR podcast, for their submissions and their continued support of the show.
By the way, I think Brett is correct. Zion Williamson is going to dominate the rim.
All right, guys, we're going to finish today. We're not going to do a parting shot segment or a player of the week because we haven't had any games or any shots to take since the last time we recorded. But we do want to finish up with a preview of Duke's first game. Of course, the Champions Classic is on November 6th. It's coming right up. Duke opens the season against Kentucky this year in Indianapolis. It's opening night for college basketball. They've rejiggered the schedule a little bit so that Duke doesn't have to play any cupcakes to open the season. It's right to Kentucky in Indy. I'm sure the room will be crawling with Kentucky fans who have arrived from over the river to whatever it is they do, make moonshine or yell slurs at Coach K. Whatever it is that Kentucky fans are doing, they will be there, I am sure, in force in Indy. So we're going to break up the preview here a little bit. I'm going to go to Donald first. Donald, what do you want to tell me about John Calipari's Kentucky squad?
Well, they have, another freshman-laden squad, and really, I know Jason will probably talk about the big men, so I'll focus on the small guys for a little bit. And they're very quick. They're very fast. Ashton Hagans, Emmanuel Quickly. You're going to see them try and get out and run the ball and really get in the transition and really have a fast offense with these two guys. Tyler Hero is 6'5" shooting guard. All these guys are highly talented freshmen. And when you add those to some of the guys like PJ Washington and Reed Travis, Kentucky is a good team. And it is almost unfair to college basketball that we have to see 2 versus 4 or 2 versus 3, depending on what poll you look at, in this Champions Classic for the first game of the year. But it's really going to be a very good test right off the bat for our freshmen, especially with Trey Jones, Cam Reddish. If you have those two guys at the 1 and 2 guard positions, going after these guys, they're going to have to figure out a way to keep them in front of them, talk, communicate, and quarterback the defense, because they have to know where these guys are on the court. I don't know enough about their shooting ability to know if they can shoot the ball. I'm sure Jason has done a little bit more research in that area, but I do know that they're very quick. And, our guys can be quick, but if we can keep them in front of them, that's really going to be the key to limiting what they can do on the offensive end.
So like Donald mentioned, he primarily looked at the guards. I looked at the big men, and there's something I want to tell you about the Kentucky big men. There is a reason that Kentucky is ranked number 2 in all the polls, and some people even say number 1. And that is because of what they're bringing back and what they have added up front. These guys are going to be – this is, I think, the best front line in all of college basketball. They bring back Nick Richards and P.J. Washington. Both of those guys could have been perhaps first-round draft picks. P.J. Washington probably would have been a first-round draft pick. Nick Richards would have gone early in the second round if they had bothered to come out after their freshman year. But they both chose to come back to school to play a second season. They're incredibly athletic. They're really, really good rebounders. P.J. Washington's like a ridiculous rebounder. And they're very, very skilled. But I got extra bad news for you. They also add E.J. Montgomery as a freshman who was, he wasn't Cam Reddish and R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson, but he was considered just behind those guys in the freshman class. A really, really, really good forward. He stands 6'10", a great mid-range touch. I saw E.J. Montgomery playing in the McDonald's All-American practices that I went to, and just a feathery touch out to about 12 to 15 feet, almost automatic in there. E.J. Montgomery, really, really good big man. And now the worst news is E.J. Montgomery probably isn't even going to start for Kentucky because they brought in Reed Travis. Now, folks who've followed Duke recruiting for a while know that Duke was hard after Reed Travis 5 years ago when he was still in high school. He chose to go to Stanford, where he was all Pac-12, Pac-14, Pac-10, whatever the heck that conference is out there on the West Coast. He was all whatever it is. Really, really good player out there for Stanford. He got injured one year. His junior year, I believe it was his junior year, he got hurt, didn't play, and so he redshirted. As a result, he is now a graduate transfer playing for Kentucky. And the word coming out of Kentucky practices, we shouldn't be surprised at this, is that Reed Travis is the best player in practice. Those 4 guys I just mentioned, Nick Richards, P.J. Washington, E.J. Montgomery, Reed Travis, make the best front line in all of college basketball. And they are going to give Duke all we can handle and then some. I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I've never said this on the podcast before. I think Duke is going to lose this game. I think that we're going to fall to Kentucky. We are too young. It's the beginning of the year. We are just figuring out what it means to play at this level. We haven't played anything even close to Kentucky, not even in the ballpark of Kentucky. And we're going to be facing an experienced team. This is not the usual Kentucky band of freshmen. Donald is right. Their backcourt are freshmen, but their front court are almost all sophomores and a fifth-year grad transfer. Reed Travis is a man playing against boys. And I think we're going to have all we could handle and then some up front. And unfortunately, I'm sitting here saying that I think Duke is going to lose this game. I think we're going to lose it because they're going to own us on the inside.
So to piggyback on top of that, the thing that I am looking for most from Duke is the way the defensive game plan comes together. So is Duke sending pressure like they showed they were at least practicing a couple times in the exhibition games? Are they sending pressure after made baskets so that Kentucky has a hard time bringing the ball up the court again, with that inexperienced backcourt? Is Duke denying the ball inside the way that Duke teams of yore were able to clog up the lane with arms and bodies, not so much because they were packing it in, but because they were just good at disrupting passing lanes? Is Duke able to prevent Kentucky from scoring the ball inside? That, I think, is going to be the key. The offensive game for Duke it's on the one hand very polished because there are some incredible individual contributors. I still think that the overall flow of the offense is going to be in work a bit for the season, but I think that key to overcoming Kentucky, a Kentucky team that, Jason, based on your prediction, I feel like might even be favored in this game. the key for Duke is going to be the way that they set the defensive pressure. If they can create turnovers, if they can get out and transition and take the ball away and make easy baskets, because Kentucky throws a lot of bodies at Duke, a lot of experienced guys, as you mentioned, Reed Travis, who's been in college basketball for a while now. Is Duke able to contain all of those guys and prevent them from even getting touches? Donald, was there something you wanted to finish off with as we look ahead at Kentucky in the start of college basketball season?
Yeah, it's not as a sad prediction as Jason has, but I will predict this. This game is supposed to start at 9:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Obviously,
no
the Kansas-Michigan State game is going to be before that. There's no way this game starts at 9:30. It's probably going to be closer to 10. And I will go so far as to predict this. This game will go to overtime, meaning that Sam and I will have prepared for watching a sporting event beyond the midnight hour because we have been watching the World Series. But it will be one of those games where if you're on the East Coast, just take a half day on Wednesday because it's going to be late when this game is over.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're probably going to be right in that. So, well, at least about the game time. I don't know about going to overtime. That doesn't happen very
That's quite a prediction. That is quite a prediction, Donald.
This is going to be one of those great basketball games, and it's going to overtime. I don't know who's going to win. I think we can win, but I do think it's going to be one of those games that people are going to be talking about on Wednesday. We won't be talking about it because we're going to be taking half day because it's going to be that late.
I do have no class on that Wednesday, so it is very possible for me to get in a good nap before the game starts. Might be necessary. All right, folks, don't forget, if you love the show, make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or SoundCloud. Leave us 5-star reviews, of course. That is how we gain traction. If you don't enjoy the show, feel free to email complaints to dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Any of your comments are always welcome. If you send us something especially good and we like it, maybe we'll read it out on the show. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, again, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. That's a great way to get in touch with us, as Brett Etheridge and as Byrd Campbell have done for their respective businesses. We'd like to thank them again, of course, for their continuing support. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Duke Basketball Report podcast, the annual season prediction episode. Of course, my favorite episode of the season, or at least one of them. So for Jason and Donald, we'll wrap it there. For Jason and Donald, I am Sam Klein. This has been episode 132 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. Duke Band, take us home. Happy college basketball season, everybody.